Yeah, hi, so I'm Johannes. I'm the CEO and co-founder of GetYourGuide. We're actually an international travel business with actually offices in 3 countries in the US, in Switzerland and in Germany. And we actually run tours and activities and attractions and sell tickets for these in more than 2,000 destinations in more than 200 countries around the globe. And with a customer base also of numerous countries.
Hi, Marcus. You met earlier.
I just met you, so come on.
Okay, so I was the COO of Game Studio Operations at Segal, and I rolled out our internationalization program, bringing the company's mission was connecting the world through games, and up until 2010, we were connecting the world through games for people who spoke English and used Facebook. So we figured out how to roll out our games in 16 languages and grew to a 300 million member audience.
Okay, cool. So we have traveling, we have sort of gambling and games. Rohan, what do you do?
Nothing quite so exciting. No, that's not true. So Rohan Chandran, I'm the head of product at Telenav. So we are a global concern with our navigation products right now. And I think, in the spirit of these successful businesses, I've had a couple of startups in the past that have been successful. They've all been built on failure, and that's been a common theme on the path to success, as particularly as we've tried to go global with a couple of them.
Okay, amazing.
As tour guides with one another, so a little bit like an Airbnb for local tour guiding. And while we were doing that, we were discovering this business model that a lot of the local attractions and activities companies actually do need distribution and marketing on the web. And when we discovered that and wrote up this business plan, we actually we launched and thought about the business as a global business from day one, because the country that you've been referring to, which is probably the only country in the world that is even more organized than the Dutch, is Switzerland. And in Switzerland,
Germany. Don't forget the Germans.
Well, no. So I'm German. I've lived in Switzerland for 7 years. Trust me, Swiss are more organized than the Germans. Take a Swiss train, and they are. Switzerland, however, is an amazing country, but has the slight disadvantage that it has 6 million inhabitants total, out of which I think 4 million speak German, 2 million speak French, and 500,000 speak Italian, and 100,000 speak like a Latinated dialect somewhere in the mountains. So it's a small country with a ton of different languages. So I think the one thing that you take away from the small country is that you need to start in a lot of languages, and you need to scale very early in order to make it, because otherwise your consumer audience is just not going to be big enough. So one of the things that we did, literally from day one, is that we built our platform so we could scale our languages and our distribution systems globally to a lot of different languages. And this sounds like a really, non-intelligent thing to do, but inherently it was, I think, one of the very big strong points that we always had, because we are a travel business and we carry inventory that is not physical, hence can be sold to anyone around the world. So it's like a Chinese person can come and book, Eiffel Tower Vatican tickets on our website. So actually being able to scale to a lot of different languages quickly, and also having customer support and sales staffs of a lot of different languages, and being able to support that complexity of different destinations and different source markets and different languages on the platform was massive. And all of our American competition, which was the only competition we've had, went from a very US perspective, which is, you have a .com domain, and then, 10 years later you launch a .co.uk domain, and then, you figure out how you translate your product. And, by that time, I think the good European companies, will be over the hills. And I think that is a little bit the strategy that we took. It was, however, not planned in the beginning. I have to say we weren't as smart as that, but it was really just out of the necessity from starting from a small country that had that many languages.
So in essence, Swiss is the starting ground for any great startup.
Well, I wouldn't say that it's Swiss. I would say it's more European. I think we're just, I've heard this, at least 4 times today, sitting in the audience. I think Babelverse was like very interesting because it, showed all the different flags. I think, while we always look up to Silicon Valley and those guys are sort of like the big example for us. I think we Europeans, and also the Dutch and the Germans, and it's like we have a lot of things that are really going for us, and we actually I think are pretty good at understanding what it means to sort of like cater to a lot of different nationalities. So I don't want to say sort of like the Americans aren't good at that. If you look at McDonald's, they also made it, but I think generally sort of like our businesses are fairly good. I mean, like wherever I go in the world, I find a Dutch person at least.
I'm sorry because I've been looking around Cluj for McDonald's and I hadn't seen one. I was impressed. There's one now.
Good. And how did Kees Colin, ex-CEO of Booking.com, help there? Did he came along later? He had strong in that vision? Or?
Yeah, so I tried to get it. So Kees Colin is the founder and CEO of Booking.com for you guys who don't know him. And Kees is probably, he's not a very well-known guy. He's a Dutch guy, and this reoccurring theme of the Dutch people here. But Kees is actually, a few people know him, but he's probably the most successful CEO in all of Europe in the internet space. He built Booking.com, which is an online hotel reservation platform. And Booking.com was bought by Priceline for $100 million in 2004. And today makes more than 95% of the market cap of Priceline with its revenues. And Priceline is a $70 billion company today. So I think the market cap that he generated is more than any other European company, probably more than most of the European tech companies combined. And I tried to get in touch with Kees for years, being in the travel business, and naturally he would never reply to my emails. And I only got to talk to him when we were actually already at scale with significant revenues and more. I think so. Like at the time we were like 60, 70 people. That's when he took an interest. But he's been hands down focused on booking for a long period of time, and he stepped back 2 years ago to hand over to the new CEO there in Houston. This was also the time when he started to invest in tech startups. And we were actually one of the very first investments that he's made, which is a very natural one because what he's done for the hotel reservation space, we're actually doing for the attractions and in-destination space. It's a very similar product, very similar consumer geography. But I would say, so like your question was what I've learned from him is, I think the thing that I learned most from him was actually not around marketing or PPC or all that kind of stuff which you would expect you would learn from a company that has mastered that so well. But it's actually much more about leadership and management. So I think the thing that made the Booking.com such a fantastic company and such a wildly successful, if not even the most successful European company, is that they actually totally mastered this internationalization through tremendous structure and discipline in the organization, very good goal setting, and fantastic engineering. I think in terms of the engineering, from what I've seen from those guys, it's far beyond what most people know. I think even in Silicon Valley, to be honest. And I think it's a great, great company.
So I want to actually add on to something Johannes said about the value of starting something in Switzerland and having that sort of constrained economy. I think it's a great fundamental lesson when you're starting something up, because the innovation that comes out of startups is because of a combination of rich talent and scarce resources. And that's when creativity comes to the fore. And I think in this case, we're talking about the constrained resource being the audience or the market that you want to develop for. And if you look at the world nowadays, right, there's a lot of phenomenal activity coming out of places like Israel. Very small local market, but companies like Waze getting bought for $1 billion because they're forced by that constraint to think on a more global scale, because you're not going to win, and this is really applicable to you guys here in Cluj and in Romania in general, right? You're not going to win on a global scale by building for the Romanian market alone. You've got to, by the very definition of it, think globally and think beyond your boundaries. And I think that forces you to come up with a more creative and better solution and positions you really well for that. So I think that's a really important point to take away.
Marcus, can you tell me a bit more about localization? Thanks. Sorry. Marcus, can you tell us a bit more about localization?
I guess so. I think one of the there's sort of two things going on here. Like, should I localize my product or not? And then sort of taking a step back, I've spoken with many of you over the break since I've been caffeinating myself. And what you need to get to first is what is this product? Should I even build this product? So step one, before you go build a product, like create some ads for your product and run them on Facebook and see if people click the ad. If they don't click the ad, don't build it in any language. Step one. In terms of seriously, really save yourself the trouble. If people won't click the ad, then they will not download your product. So taking a step from there, in terms of localization, you can think of it in 3 stages. So stage 1 would be, every time I make a new release of my product, step 1 is, I release my product in multiple languages, and every time I add new features to my product, I roll it out in those same languages at the same time. It's called SimShip. Okay? That's sort of table stakes if you're going to be a global product. Level 2 would be that you do specific things targeted at a given region. So at Zynga, we had a lot of events like Christmas and things like that. Then we realized, geez, we make all this money selling Christmas cows. Should we get a list of holidays in our highest performing regions? Let's create a template event that we can add art from any given region in it and do something specific for Norway or for Germany during, the beer thing. I forgot what it's called. Help me out. Beer Fest. That's not a great name. Oktoberfest. That's it. I think you would know. So then we would do like an Oktoberfest thing. Level 3 localization would be, I'm going to make a game or a product for the Romanian market. Like there's so much money there that I should make one specifically for them. I don't think it makes sense to do hyper-local unless you find like a super rich niche. Like in Japan, there's a certain kind of video game that it monetizes like beyond anything that we can do in the US, and we tried making a game like it in the US market and it didn't work. Unless you can find a rich vein like that, then make it in English and roll it out in other languages. And build in the ability to do languages from the beginning, because if you try and add it later, like, oh, my product's taking off in English, now I want to add all these languages while I'm adding new features on my product, it's going to feel like you're running a marathon on a broken ankle. So do the work in the beginning so you don't have to go through the pain later.
But wait till you're sort of successful, because it will slow you down enormously. So
build the framework so that you can do it. So do the ad test and make sure that people want it, and then build in the tech, the framework now, which you can, most of it's open source, you can grab chunks and do it. But yeah, generally you're right. There is a tax for doing it.
Yeah, so it slows you down like how many percent, you would say?
I would say if you do it from the beginning, it's going to slow you down by 15%. And if you try and add it on later, you're going to have 2 quarters where it's going to slow you down by 40%. And the problem is that a lot of apps are sort of leaky speedboats. Like you get a bunch of people to install it, but then to keep getting people to come back and use it again and again, you have to add new features. And if you're spending 40% of your time adding localization, then that's 40% of the time that's not being spent adding new features for your existing customers. So then you're losing people faster than you're gaining them from the new language.
Rohan, actually my most intriguing question is for you. You're actually managing to integrate different development teams across nations. This is, in my mind, well, not a really nice job. At least it's a very complicated and cumbersome job. So tell us more about that.
Story of my life, all the fun jobs. No, it's a challenge, right? It's a very non-trivial thing. There are a lot of ways to go about going global. For Telenav, in this case, as you're referring to, part of our approach has been the acquisition of Skobler, based in Berlin and Cluj. And with that, we've got a global team that has attacked a whole bunch of markets that we hadn't attacked with our navigation mobile product in the US. And bringing that together is very non-trivial, as I said, because you've got different products that have been built along a different roadmap with slightly different goals in mind. And it's not an immediate, hey, we'll suddenly turn around and one product and one size will fit all. There's a lot of detailed thought that has to go into that. That said, I think we live in a world now where it's a lot easier to go global with a product than it ever has been. Right? 20 years ago, in the dark ages, pre-internet, we didn't know a lot about different cultures and different responses to products, and you had to localize in a very different way. I think it was Steve Jobs who observed, we have an obsession with Turkish coffee in America. And he went over to Turkey and made the observation that the Turkish youth don't drink Turkish coffee, they drink iced mocha frappuccino. I don't know anything about caffeine, sorry. But they drink whatever it is people like to order from Starbucks, and it's really the same the whole world around. And I think and we'll see this more of this going forward, the global village is fast becoming a truth, and the way people respond to products and deal with products is really, it's a fundamental of the human experience, right? And we're all people and we all fundamentally act in the same way. So the basic genesis of a product can be fundamentally the same, and that opens up these markets to you in a way, you know, beyond the language stuff, as Marcus said, in that sort of level 1 and level 2 of localization, in a way that it hasn't been before. That said, there are nuances that you often still have to deal with culturally, right? We make a navigation product, and it's based on, you know, fundamentally telling you to turn left, take the second left, and then turn right at the 3rd Street, and turn left on Main Street. But try taking that to a village in India, for example, where the navigation is on the basis of turn left at Bob's house and then turn right at that tree. Or it's probably not Bob in India, but I won't even try and go there. And it's a different approach to what is the same fundamental human experience, and you've then got to solve for that in a different way. So I think I completely digressed from your question, but...
I just add one thing. If you're going to offer a product and you're going to localize it, do a great job with it. Don't use Mechanical Turk. Like use actual translators, or you're going to find really bad customer service issues. We tried it. Like we tried crowdsourcing it, and there was just sort of the difference between Chilean Spanish and Mexico City Spanish and things like that, and people get offended. Like they have a visceral, how dare you not make the game in Chilean Spanish experience. So,
but that's not only your product, technically, that's also the message you bring out, right? So even what's in the App Store, that needs to be made by local people, because you can easily offend people or bring the wrong message. So yeah, absolutely.
And there's rules, like in Germany, the blood in the game is supposed to be green instead of red. It's like a government rule.
So, I think the time is almost on. Some quick advices, guys.
I think, you know, now that I play back the ball, like if you're German, a country to internationalize first is always the Netherlands. It just works really well. You guys are very good customers.
Really, I thought we were cheap and we're only doing things that are gratis.
No.
The Norwegians love spending money on video games. They just love click, 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 spend, spend, spend.
So more advice, guys.
Sure, I think you know, everything I just said count as advice, but when we roll out product in the US, very often you'll see companies like Uber, for example, who are now a global hit. They rolled out in one city, one locality, and then spread after that, and they use that as their base to beta. For you guys here in Romania or Europe in general, that might scale a little differently, so that one city might be one country and then rolling out to multiple other countries, but I think that fundamental approach makes sense. So while I've said it's very easy to go global and be global these days, that doesn't mean it necessarily makes sense to go out there on day one and say, I'm a worldwide product available in every market.
No, I agree, and I think you really need to define your internationalization strategy, and I think it's always really good to sort of like first have like a little proof of concept in one market, and sort of like understand the unit economics of the business, and then roll out strategically. And I think one mistake that I see very often with startups is that they're sort of like, it's like a 4 or 5 person startup somewhere in Europe, and then sort of like the next market they want to address is the US. But the US is a really difficult, very expensive, very, very big market. So typically my advice is, try to scale first in your one European market, and then try to, find your internationalization strategy. It often proves out that actually being, so like going to the next European market, like for instance BlaBlaCar, I think earlier was a great example where they went from France to Spain, and then afterwards added Germany and Poland. That's actually a really good strategy often, versus the UK and the US actually often being very difficult markets generally. But I think it's different for every business, and you have to figure it out for your own, based on your metrics, your unit economics, and your strategy.
I think this will be the conclusion. Thanks, guys. Well done.